It's already been a hectic offseason for our New England Patriots, but it will not be slowing down. We have a GM search, offensive coordinator search, defensive coordinator search. Oh, and by the way, there's also NFL draft rumors to go alongside free agency rumors. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a beat surrounding your New England Patriots. All right, Patriots fans, what's up? I'm Nic Rohloff of Patriots Today, and on today's show, we're talking about two things. Well, first, Jerod Mayo, is he targeting a new defensive coordinator to bring into Foxborough? And number two, should New England take a look into trading for Mr. Dak Prescott, the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, after yesterday's disaster against the Green Bay Packers? Let's jump into the defensive coordinator news first, because Ian Rappaport tweeted out this morning that new Patriots head coach Jerod Mayo has begun the process of filling out his staff, as he's set to interview Panthers outside linebackers coach Tem Lukabu for their new defensive coordinator position. A former Boston College DC, he's been with the 49ers and Bengals as well. So let's get to know the potential defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Well, one, he's still relatively young, 42 years old. And as Jerod Mayo looks to fill out his staff and the Patriots bring in a potential new GM, I think it's fascinating to see the age of all these new potential positions being filled, right? Because Jerod Mayo is 37 years old. He's the youngest head coach in all of the National Football League as we currently sit. So it's intriguing to see if Mayo will go with more experienced coordinators around him, or is he going to try to build a young staff that they could all grow together and potentially be together for the long term. It's fascinating to see how that turns out, but he's 42, like he's mentioned, current Carolina Panthers outside linebackers coach, and was the Boston College defensive coordinator in 2020 to 22. So, well, you know, he's got some ties in that Boston area. And the one thing that I'll say right off the bat is that I like that Jerod Mayo is looking outside of the organization for the next potential defensive coordinator. I think we can all agree that there's some talented people on the current staff and in the front office. But my thing is, if you just promote within, well, that's just signifying to me that Bill Belichick was the issue in the front office's mind and in Robert Kraft's mind. And I don't know if that's really true. So I like the idea of bringing in fresh blood and fresh new ideas to this Patriots organization. But I will say this. There is a chance they do promote within. So we talked about Lukabu potentially being the next defensive coordinator for New England. But could it actually still be a Belichick? Yes, Albert Breer, who does have some ties to the New England front office and organization, and he is a pretty good reporter as well, mentioned that Steve Belichick, I'm not quoting him, by the way, this is all paraphrased, who's very close with Jerod Mayo, and Brian Belichick have been offered chances to return in 2024. And that is very interesting to me because I think Steve Belichick is really good as a play caller. He was the play caller for New England's defense this past season, and he has been really good in forcing the defense to be, like, think about it. Jerod Mayo and Belichick, not Bill, but Steve, basically game planned and called plays together. Steve did the play calling. Jerod Mayo did the defensive game plan and the installation to go alongside the film meetings. So I like that combination. There's also DeMarcus Covington inside this organization who is really solid as well. I really like the idea of him. And actually, Smitty, can we look at the defensive coaches on the staff for this next, or what it was in 2023? Because these guys did a really good job, and I'd like to see them return if possible. Like I mentioned, DeMarcus Covington is the defensive line coach. He's 34. I wouldn't hate if he was the new DC in New England if they did decide to go within. But Steve Belichick as well, Brian Belichick, the safeties coach. You got some good guys. Like these guys did an excellent job for this Patriots defense this past season, right? Like the defense was still outstanding considering they lost a lot of people to injury, a.k.a. Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon. So if they did promote within, I wouldn't hate it, but I do like the idea of bringing someone outside to be that new defensive coordinator, especially if one of the two Belichicks did actually leave. So get your votes in down below. Do you want to hire a brand new DC that is not already in New England? If you do, type Y for yes, type N for no. There's going to be more people who get interviewed outside this Patriots organization, so we'll also keep you updated on that. Coming up, should the Patriots trade for Dak Prescott? But before we do that, I do want to mention one more nugget from Albert Breer. And this had to do with the offensive coordinator side of things. So we already talked about DC. Let's take a look at the OC because Bill O'Brien might still return to Foxborough as the Patriots offensive coordinator. But if he follows Bill Belichick to wherever he goes, by the way, I got my eyes on Dallas and Atlanta, or he isn't the guy that Jerod Mayo wants to keep on staff, the offensive coordinator search for New England is going to be widespread and very open-minded, which is music to my ears. I'm fine bringing back Bill O'Brien, but if they do elect to move on, I know Josh McDaniels might be a good fit, and I don't even hate that. But I also would like to look elsewhere and maybe bring in a different scheme like Clint Kubiak, the assistant quarterback coach, I believe, in San Francisco. I think he's good. Zach Robinson, the quarterback's coach in Los Angeles. He's worked well with the Rams. I think casting a wide net, getting different schemes, different thought processes could be very beneficial for your New England Patriots. We will talk about Dak Prescott in just a second, but we are sponsored by PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app there is, and you can get a first deposit match up to $100 when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. You could join rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz, and many others who play PrizePicks on a daily basis, just like yours truly. And you know I'm looking at tonight's Monday Night Football game between the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Super wild card weekend coming to a close with this game. I'm a person who likes to take the more than because life's too short to take the less than. More than 22.5 receiving yards for Rachaad White, more than 199.5 passing yards for Baker Mayfield, and more than 24.5 rushing yards for Jalen Hurts. I'm a little bit of a softie on this take because I'm taking the Goblins, which is less numbers that you have to go more than, but it's also a lot safer. This can win up to 2 times my money. So one more time, prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link and promo code is in the description and comments of today's video. All right, let's get to Mr. Dakota Prescott, the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, because, well, we know New England is going to be searching for a quarterback, and could Dak Prescott be the next guy in Foxborough? Well, there's some interesting thoughts on that. But let's take a look at Dak Prescott overall because he had a disaster in Green Bay yesterday. He put up good raw numbers, a little bit of a stat pad, if I do say so myself. He threw for damn near 400 yards, but we know those were a little bit of empty statistics. And this is a very intriguing situation because he's now 2-5 in the postseason as the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys after some really good regular seasons in the Lone Star State. This next year, by the way, or I should say this year, was the final year of his 4-year, $160 million contract. So he's going to get paid, and you're going to have to pay him a significant amount of money. He's also turning 31 years old in July, so he's on the back half of his career. But as we know with quarterbacks, 31 really isn't that old at all, really. But the interesting part of this is the financial side of it. And obviously, you're going to have to trade for Dak Prescott. They're not going to cut him. He's a top 10 quarterback in my mind. So I think we have to look at what a trade would look like and why it wouldn't really make sense for Dallas to do so. Well, if they traded him, you would only have to really take on his base salary, and the Cowboys would have to take on that dead cap of $61.9 million. I don't think Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, who still want to compete, are in the business of paying $62 million to someone who's not playing for their team. And if they did move on from Dak Prescott, well, they're not really saving any money if they decide to trade him pre-June 1st. Now, it's a little bit of a different story if they go after June 1st because his base salary remains close to the same, but the dead cap drops almost $34 million with that dead cap. They'd also have dead cap for next season rather than just all this year. So it would make sense a little bit for the Cowboys to move on from him post-June 1 than if they did it beforehand because they would save $34 million on the 2024 cap, but that dead cap would certainly limit them next offseason in 2025. But what all these numbers mean, if you're confused, I get it. But the real short answer is it's difficult for Dallas to trade him because they've allotted so much money to him. And if they do just move on, they have to hold and eat a lot of that money. So the question is, if you're going to have to pay him all that money, if you do trade him, why wouldn't you just keep him, especially when he came off a good year? I get the issues in the postseason and the shortcomings, but he's still a really good quarterback, and I don't think the Cowboys or really anybody in the NFL are in the business of paying good quarterbacks to play somewhere else. But we're going to talk more about Dak Prescott here, but just off first glance, would you trade for Mr. Prescott? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Get your thoughts down below in the comments section. I'll say this, just based off statistics, you'd have to at least think about it, right? 2020, he obviously got hurt, broke his leg, I think it was, against the New York Giants that year. But he bounced back in 2021 with a fantastic year, 4,500 yards essentially, 37 touchdowns, 10 INTs. Last year was intriguing. He led the league in interceptions with 15, a little bit of a down year for Dak, and only 12 games played, was dealing with some injuries as well. This year, though, bounced back, and I'm going to be honest, was an MVP candidate for a part of the season, right? Played every single game, 4,500 yards, damn near 70% completion percentage, which is just, that's elite. 36 touchdowns to go alongside 9 interceptions. Dak showed what he is capable of doing and that he is a top 10 quarterback in football. And that's really my thoughts on Prescott. I think Dak is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. It's really undisputed. But the shortcomings in the playoffs just cannot be ignored. 2-5 with a lot of talented rosters around him. This year was probably their best chance. And I get you're going to say, well, you can't blame Dak Prescott for the Cowboys defense giving up 48. Well, you can blame him for not extending drives, keeping his defensive off the field, giving them time to breathe, and you could also blame him for throwing a couple picks, including one that got housed for 6, and putting the Packers, the other interception, by the way, was in the red zone. So Dak really had a tough game against the Green Bay Packers, and it's really been that way his entire career. Last season, he balled out against the Buccaneers in the wild card. What do you do against the 49ers in the divisional round? Well, you shit down his leg. I will say this, though. I can be convinced to trade for Dak Prescott. Now, I don't know what it would cost on a trade, and maybe if you guys want, we can talk about this more in depth on a separate video about what a potential trade for Dak would look like. So if you want that, go in the comment section and say, let's talk about the Dak trade potentially. But, here's the thing. I don't know if I'm offering first-round picks, especially with that contract. I know it's crazy to say that I'm not offering first-round picks, but you're obviously not offering the 3rd overall pick for Dak Prescott. You're not doing that. Are you offering a first next year? It's an interesting hypothetical, but if the price wasn't too much, I could be convinced because you could take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 this year, have Dak Prescott as the quarterback, spend some of that cap space that you have. Half of it would be allotted to Dak, but the other half can be spent upgrading other wide receiver spots or offensive line issues as well. There is an avenue where this makes sense, but I think I lean no, but it would take a lot of convincing to get me to that yes side of things. Make sure you guys do subscribe, though, as we do close out today's video. YouTube.com/Patriots Today. Stay locked in here with us at Patriots Today, whether it be myself, Nic Rohloff, or Harrison Graham hosting a video breaking down the latest New England Patriots rumors. We'll be back tomorrow with an offensive coordinator's video.